Hello, lovely people. This is Focus 94.3 FM, and we are here with the Ghana National Fire Service, having a conversation with them about the causes of fire, how to prevent them, and every single thing we need to know about fire. I am Esperanza Ajite, your host, and we are here with.
Um, Assistant Divisional Officer 1. I'm Siwa Renda Obing.
Hi, Renda. So, Renda, can you tell us a little bit about the fire service? What exactly does it entail?
All right. So the Ghana National Fire Service was actually established to help fight fires. You see, in the early days, there were these ASAFO groups and all those sort of people who they were using to fight fires when people's farms were on fire. You see, those days, domestic fires and all these institutional fires were not so much as we see today. So there were fewer people, so there were fewer incidents, let me put it. But now, as we are growing, there are more institutions, there are industrial areas, there are more people building houses and so forth. So the need for a national fire service to be established.
Okay, so Renda, aside putting out fire, what else is the National Fire Service responsible for?
All right, thank you for this particular question. A lot of people think we just put out fires. That's not the case. Our main work actually is to put preventive measures in place, because what's actually the essence for the fire to come, so that we go to put it off, or go to put it out, or we go to save lives whilst we can prevent. If we can prevent more, we wouldn't lose properties, we wouldn't lose lives. So our core mandate actually is to prevent fires. We also look into buildings. When you are building in be it your own residence, or for an industrial purpose, or for an institutional purpose, or for a commercial purpose, you need to invite us to come and inspect the place even before you start building the actual building. Let me say, you have to bring in to sit with us to inspect or go through your building drawings, so that we would check to see your exits, the things you are going to put in the building, so that in case there's an emergency for our work, we will know how to come in. And as you stay in the house, your safety is assured.
Okay, so you spoke on inspecting buildings and during the construction stages and all of that. So I want to know, does it come at a cost?
Okay, fire certification comes at a cost, but backed by law. So you pay charges that directly goes to the government. Um, Before you build, you submit your documents to the assembly, the jurisdiction where you are going to put up your building. So when you submit the documents, the fire service is actually on a board, or let me say on a committee. Yeah, that's the right word to use. On a committee at the assembly. So when you submit it, then it comes through from that point. And yes, it doesn't come for free. It comes at a charge. And that goes to the government. But the charge is not that much. It is better to pay that charge and go through that process than to have all your property raised down in fire.
So you spoke about prevention. Okay, aside when it comes to the construction of buildings and all of that, what are the other ways that you try to prevent fires?
All right. Through education. I'm sure today we are going to hear some education at the latter part of our conversation. So we educate, we go to schools, we go to institutions, wherever you invite us, wherever you have not even invited us, we come. So in case you are by the streets in your car driving, and you hear anybody preaching the gospel of fire safety, please listen and put it to work.
Okay, yeah. So if you hear anybody preaching the gospel of fire safety, listen. Okay. Yeah. So Renda, also when it comes to like the fire outbreaks and everything, what are usually the causes of it, the common causes?
Um the technical causes, I would say most are maybe electrical, or yes, I'll put it electrical, but in another definition, I would say carelessness, and then yeah, carelessness and negligence, because a lot of fires that happen are actually preventable if we were more careful, or if we were more considerate, most of the fires that happen wouldn't have happened.
So how can we tell? Because we know there are other causes of fires. So how can we tell the difference between like an electrical fire or an electrically caused fire or that of the gas or any other thing?
Oh, the definition is by the names you mentioned. If it's a gas, of course, it's a gas that caused the fire. And if it's electrical, I think you've defined it by the.
Yeah, but
I don't get your question.
yeah, I want to know how you can tell because usually it just happens. And then, as the fire service, usually when you get to the scene, how do you tell if it was caused by this or was caused by this? Like, how do you go about it?
Okay. When we get to a fire scene, there's always a leader that leads the team in the car. So when they get there, the officer in charge, that's the OIC, gets down to do an initial sizing up. So when he gets down, he will check to see. And per our training, when you get there, you would get to know, looking at one or two things, he would get to know so that they will know how to go about it. So that their safety first. Because if I'm not safe, I cannot save you. Do you get it? I have to be safe before I can save you. So when they get there, they will assess. They will assess using some technicalities. They would assess they will watch what is burning and what is on fire and what are there. They would get to know what not the cause. The cause can actually be determined after they have fought the fire. Then they will do an investigation and write an intensive report on that. But when they get there, they would have to know what is on fire so that they will know the extinguishing medium to use and then to put their safety first.
What are the technicalities? Like, how long do you take to respond to an emergency and all of that?
Okay, so as you rightly witnessed, I would have laughed if you had timed them so that it wouldn't be like I'm the one saying it because you saw it for yourself. And not the entire station was even aware you were around. So it's not like we were acting up for you to see. You get it? Uh-huh. So normally when a fire call comes in, that is if somebody calls in to report an incident, we would ask you some few questions. We would ask for the caller's number and then we'll ask for the location, the exact location where the incident is being reported from. As you saw, when a fire call comes in, actually, it takes 1 minute for everybody to get onto the truck and they move.
So, how do you handle the misconception that the fire service is like when you poke them, you don't have water and all of that? Because we hear a lot of like back and forth on the issue about the fire service. They don't come on time. When they come, there's no water and blah blah blah. So how do you go about it?
Okay, I'll take from the time bit. So, as you rightly witnessed, you could see it took 1 minute for us to move the truck. So, initially, I said that whenever somebody calls in to report an incident, we ask for location and then we ask for the caller's number. Normally, you see in Ghana, most people don't do well with in giving directions. They'll say, "Oh, the Cocoa Junction, or where the woman sells the gobe, or where they do this, where they do that." What if we get there and the woman didn't come today? Do you get it? So if we give an exact location and then we take the caller's number so that when we get there and we are lost, we can call. I believe that when you give a good location and then everything is on point, we will get there in no time. However, where they are traveling from and where they are going to would also determine the time. Do you get it? We are not automatic beings, and we are not spiritual beings, and we are not using helicopters. Do you get it? It's a car that is moving, just like you are in a car going somewhere. So we also use the road, and we don't have any special road we are using. We use the same road you also use when going somewhere or coming to work or going wherever. Do you get it? So all these factors come in place. So we don't intentionally delay that somebody has called. We want the person to, you see, we are there to save lives and properties. So why will I bath, brush my teeth, take breakfast, and come to work and come and stay there for somebody to call, and I'll relax and go the time I want? Is it fair? Will any rational human being do that? Will you come to work and leave your office door key at home? Will you do that as a rational human being? So why will I drive? Do you see the cost of fuel? It's going up and up. And have you seen the truck, how big it is? So you can imagine the consumption, the fuel consumption. So why will I drive all the way to your location without water? How much is water? Fuel and water, which one is more expensive? So why will I drive this big truck without water? So I believe it's way back misconception. We should work on our minds and change our minds.
Okay, so is there a case where you get there and the water you have is not enough?
Enough determines is determined by the intensity of the fire. We know the amount of water in our car, and per our training, when we get to a scene, we are able to determine if the quantity of water in our car, that is one truck, can handle it. If not, we call in for other trucks. That's the reason why you can witness an incident that has more than one truck. It can have as more as 10 and over. I don't know if you have seen one before. You can witness an incident that has that amount of trucks present. That is because um per standard we are supposed to have a fire hydrant per every 100 meters, but that is not so in our country or in this particular region where we find ourselves. So if that was working, there wouldn't plenty tracks present for a scene, but we don't have it. So do we watch the properties burn? No, we can't do that. So immediately they get there, as I said earlier, that the OIC will get down and size up and know what is on fire. They would be able to tell that the amount of water in my car can do this work or it can't. So I should call in. So they call in for other trucks. Immediately they get there.
If I'm in a fire, okay, I'm trapped in a fire and it's caused by an electrical device or anything, how do I go about it? And if it's caused by the gas or any other thing, like how do I go about it? Because I know that electricity there, if you pour water, you're in trouble. Do you understand? So can you enlighten us about it?
Right. So every fire is fire. When any fire happens, you first think about your safety. Even if there's an extinguisher or any first aid material with you, you should check in for your safety first before you think about using an extinguisher or whatever. So, in case there's a fire right now, and as you asked, it's a gas fire, where did it happen? Was it an explosion? If it's an explosion, you can't do anything at the initial stage. So it means that you should run to safety and then call the fire service to come to your aid. If it started in the kitchen whilst you were there, probably there was leakage that you neglected that has caused the fire. So if it's a pot, you can cover the pot. If you have an extinguisher, you can use it to put it out. And all this is done when the fire has started small, not when the fire is so big. So whilst you are doing this, you should put in mind that you know the door to your safety. I mean, in case of anything, as you are trying this or you are trying to put it out, you should make sure that in case of anything, you could be able to save yourself first. Because if you are not safe and you call the fire service, perhaps by the time we get there, smoke might have intoxicated you and you are gone already. Do you get it? So anytime there's fire, we always advise that you run to safety first before you think about doing something about it. In case you are trapped, it is believed that smoke is lighter than the normal air we breathe. So when you go down, down, like you are crawling like a frog, you might get some nice oxygen, not clear as we are breathing now, but better than the smoke that's suspending in the air. So when you are trapped, you crawl. And even practicing this drill, you should know your home or know your environment, because if the light is off and you don't know the way to your door, same way you get trapped and get bent. So I'm using this opportunity to tell everyone that you should know your environment in case there's light off or there's lights out, as we would say, or when you put the light off in your room. Can you locate your door? Can you make your way to the door? If yes, then this drill is safe for you. You can practice it in case of any fire. When there's fire, as I said earlier, smoke is lighter than the air we breathe. So smoke suspends in the air. When you are able to go down like a frog and crawl, you might get some visibility there, and you might get some oxygen there to breathe. So then you can make your way out to the door and run to safety. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, please. You have. How many emergency calls do you receive in a month?
Let's take it from a day. Recently, my regional commander reported somewhere that we can have as many as 100 prank calls in a day. So you can imagine the number of calls we can have in a month. If we can have at least 100 calls that are prank, false calls in a day.
So how do those prank calls come about? Like, are there measures put in place to prevent such situations?
Now, the Ministry of Communication tried, or let me say, they began to register people so that we know the faces to a number. So, if that thing is done well, or once they are done, we will be able to put faces to the numbers that calls.
Okay, so is there a case where there has been a prank call and then everybody moves to the scene and then there's nothing?
It happens all the time.
Eh,
You see, once this happen, you might think you are just playing, or you are just pulling our legs. Number one, check the fuel we have wasted. And number two, check somebody who was in need. I wouldn't go far. Recently, I think last month, we had a fire call, as we are talking about like this. We had a prank call. We moved the truck all the way to around shoe factory. And just about when the truck moved, there was a taxi burning at Tech Junction.
can is there a are there measures put in place to actually ensure that these things don't happen? I know you mentioned that the Ministry of Communication has tried to do something about it, but like I don't know. But can it be like punishable by law? Do you think that it should be punishable by law?
It should be punishable by law. Once we catch you, we will hand you over to the police and they'll prosecute you.
Talking about leakages, is there a way to detect when there's a leakage? Can you give us a little education about it?
All right. Gas is something that is smelly. So when it's smelling, you can easily detect. If your nose is not good, as right now I've got cold, so probably let's assume it will be difficult for me to smell. When you turn it on, you might hear a hissing sound. Nobody. When it happens like that, it means your gas is leaking. Normally, what brings about this is that you see there's a small rubber seal on the gas when you go to fill it. I think it's 2 cedis. It's between 2 cedis or 5 cedis. At most, it might be 10 Ghana cedis. It could be that, or maybe your regulator, the one on top, that round thing on the cylinder that allows you to put it on or put it off. That is the gas, the regulator. So when there's a leakage, mostly is these two things. Or At a worst case, it might be the tube that connects your cylinder to your stove.
So if is coming from the tube, how do you tell? Because usually it could just be a small puncture or a small hole in it. Like how do you tell? Because I don't think it makes the same sound as if it's coming from the regulator.
Oh, if it's coming from the tube, it makes a sound, but it's minimal. So if you check, if you go to fill your gas, you've changed your rubber seal, you've changed your regulator, and it's still happening, then it means it's your tube, so you should change it. That's simple.
So basically you have to like be changing, checking it and then be changing consistently.
Course. We are ladies, we maintain our hair, we maintain our skin. So why is it that the things that can bring about fire, we almost all the time we neglect it?
So I recently found out that gas cylinders have expiry dates. Like how does that work?
You see, on the neck of the cylinder where you hold, or where you can hold, there's some writings on it. If you check, you will see the expiry date of your cylinder.
So it means that as it has expired or getting to it, you just have to change your cylinder, basically.
That is when the recirculation model comes in. The gas recirculation model that they were trying to put up, I don't know if it's been done or is still in the process. Okay, so their basic work was actually going to see to it all these problems. When you take in your cylinder, they would actually do all these check-ins. The expiry date actually is there because the producers of that cylinder know the lifespan of the materials they put into building that cylinder. So that's how come they put that expiry date. However, it could go beyond its use, but you have to check whether the or the container can still go on, or you have to change something about it. So as a layperson, you don't have any idea about this. When you visit your gas filling station, there are experts there. Tell them to look at it for you. You don't just spray your rusty cylinders and continue using them. It can cost you more than you can imagine.
Okay, so speaking about the gas filling stations, okay, um are the National Fire Service present there? Do you have representatives who are there to conduct regular checkups, regular inspections to make sure that they are also doing their jobs well?
Okay, we train them. We train them from their managers to their attendants. We train them almost all the time. We have fire wardens there, but as you rightly mentioned, in time in betweens, we go there to make sure that they are doing what they do, and what they are doing actually is also backed by law. So you can't just be there and do anything that you want.
So, with the people working at these gas filling stations, you mentioned that there's an education, like there are people who educate them and all of that. It means that you cannot just get up and say, "Well, I'm looking for a job, so let me go and see if these people will employ me." You have to go through like a system.
Oh, just like myself, everybody can become a fire officer once you've gone through training. So when you go through their training and you pass, I believe you can work there. You just have to follow what they have laid down, the systems they've laid down, so that you don't go way beyond what you're supposed to do, and you don't put danger into somebody's bottle when the person comes there to take home.
So you don't need a degree to work there.
I don't believe so. I don't know their requirements for picking people, but what I know is that they go through training to be able to work there.
Okay, so do you have any final words to our listeners?
To add on to our functions, that is what we do as the Ghana National Fire Service. We also provide services for road traffic coalition. In the layman's language, accidents. When accidents happen, normally you see vehicles are mangled up. So we have the equipment to cut, to stabilize, to be able to rescue people that have been trapped in the vehicles, so that we rescue them and hand them over to the ambulance, and they'll take it from there. Normally people call the police. When the police gets there, they normally manage crowd so that people don't enter the scene where the accident has happened, to steal or maybe take things that does not belong to them, or even worsen the case. That's the best they can do. But if somebody is trapped, they would have to still call the fire service to come in. So I'll take this opportunity to educate everyone to call us first and stop recording. Instead of recording, we should rather call so that we will save more lives than to cause more harm. I would say that safety is a responsibility for me and then for you. So then it's a shared responsibility. If I come to educate you to tell you 1 + 1 is 2, and you get home and you close the book, you don't open it to apply, what is the essence of today being here? So I would advise everybody that the little I have shared here and the little you hear from any other fire personnel, put it into use so that our safety is always assured. As we don't always forget to lock our doors, we always remember to lock our doors. Even if we step out and we recall that we didn't lock our doors, we go back to lock them. But let's ask ourselves, if we step out, do we recall, hey, did I turn off the fan? Did I turn off this? Did I put this off? Do we go back to put them off as we would go back to lock our doors? It's a puzzle we should all feel. Thank you for having me.
Thank you too. And to our listeners out there, always remember, be educated, educate others to ensure that at the end of the day, everyone is safe. Don't forget the emergency fire short code, which is 192. Okay, this is Focus FM 94.3, and I've been your host, Na Ayoko.